Green card at risk. 10 hidden USCIS rules that could cost you everything in 2025. Think your green card guarantees permanent residency? Think again. In 2025, USCIS is tightening the screws, and quiet rules most people overlook are now being used to flag, question, and even revoke green cards at the border. You don't have to break a law. You don't even need to leave the country for long. Simple things like an inactive bank account, a missing tax return, or the wrong mailing address can make them say, "You've abandoned your residency." It's happening more often, and to people who had no idea they were at risk. But the reality is, having a green card does not guarantee permanent residency if you break certain USCIS rules, many of which are not well known. In 2025, immigration scrutiny is rising, especially at airports and border crossings. If you're planning to apply for a green card or already have one, this video is your warning. These are 10 little-known USCIS rules that can cost you your green card, possibly forever. 10. The 6-month trap. This one catches thousands of green card holders off guard every year. Mark had been a U.S. permanent resident for 15 years. He had a stable job in Florida, paid his taxes, and even owned an apartment in Miami. But when a lucrative 7-month contract came through from a company in London, he took it. Who wouldn't? He didn't give it much thought. He left his apartment as it was, kept his U.S. bank accounts active, and assumed everything would be fine. After all, he was just gone for a few months, not even a year. But when he flew back into JFK Airport, he was stopped by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They pulled up his file and told him, "We believe you have abandoned your permanent residency." Just like that, no appeal, no second chance. His green card was gone. Why? Because he had stayed outside the U.S. for 212 days, just over the 6-month threshold. And that's all it took. Most people don't realize this. There's an unwritten rule called the 180-day rule. If you stay outside the U.S. for more than 180 days in a single trip, USCIS and CBP have the right to treat your absence as an intention to abandon your green card. Now, this doesn't mean they will revoke it automatically, but they can, and in Mark's case, they did. They looked at everything. His lease in the UK, the fact that he had started receiving paychecks from a foreign employer, that his Miami apartment had been sublet during his absence, and that he hadn't filed U.S. taxes for that year yet. In their eyes, it didn't matter that he had lived in the U.S. for 15 years. What mattered was what his life looked like now, and it looked more British than American. Here's the bottom line. Being outside the U.S. for more than 180 days on a single trip can trigger a full review of your residency. And if it looks like you're setting up life abroad, even temporarily, your green card can be taken away right at the airport. Don't make that mistake. If you ever need to be away for more than 6 months, speak with an immigration attorney before you leave. And always maintain proof that your real home, real job, and real ties are in the United States. 9. Documents that prove you still live in the U.S. Having a green card isn't enough anymore. USCIS wants to see real, ongoing proof that you still live in America, not just visit it. If you're a permanent resident, here are the 3 documents that silently prove whether you've been truly living in the U.S. or not. First, your U.S. driver's license. It must be valid and it must match your current U.S. address. If your license is expired, shows an old address, or worse, is from another state you no longer live in, it raises red flags. To USCIS or a border agent, that signals you may have moved or aren't really living here anymore. Second, your U.S. bank statements. No activity on your U.S. account for 90 days. That's a silent signal of abandonment. They're looking to see, are you spending money inside the U.S.? Are you paying rent or utilities? Are there any local transactions that show physical presence? If your bank account looks frozen or shows only foreign activity, it suggests your life has shifted abroad. Third, your U.S. tax returns. Even if you earned $0, you should still file. Skipping your tax return, filing it late, or filing from a foreign address creates doubt. It tells them, I'm not financially active in the U.S., and if you were out of the country during that year, it makes things worse. Bottom line, if your license, bank statements, and tax returns don't tell a consistent story that you're living in the United States, you're at risk. At risk of being flagged, at risk of being questioned, at risk of losing your green card. Keep all 3 documents current, consistent, and active. They speak louder than your green card ever will. 8. The invisible address rule. Your address isn't just where you sleep. It's part of your legal identity in the eyes of the U.S. government. When USCIS checks your status, They're not just asking where you live, they're asking if your paper trail proves it. They're looking for three things. One, utility bills. Electricity, water, gas, internet in your name at your US address. No bills? That's a problem. If there's no sign you're using power, water, or internet here, they assume you're not really here. Two, active lease agreements or mortgage statements. Your name must be on a current lease or property deed. If your name's not there or the lease ended months ago, it looks like you've moved on. Three, official mail from US agencies. That includes the IRS, DMV, Social Security, and your US bank. These letters prove you're tied to a physical address and are still part of the US system. Now here's what doesn't count. Using your cousin's address. Getting mail at your sister's place. Saying, I stay with family when I'm back. That might work in conversation, but not on paper. USCIS won't go by your word, they go by documents. If your address history is vague or your mail stops arriving, it doesn't matter that you flew back into the US last week. In their eyes, you disappeared. You need to show continuity. A clear, uninterrupted trail of documentation that ties you to a real, livable address in America. Without it, your green card is just a plastic souvenir. 7, your bank account is snitching. Your bank account tells a story and USCIS is listening. It's not about how much money you have. It's about what your money is doing. Ask yourself, are there regular transactions? Are you buying groceries, paying rent, getting gas, paying subscriptions, or grabbing coffee? Or is your account quiet? No activity for 3 months? No signs of life in the US economy? That silence speaks volumes. Here's how USCIS sees it. A $3 coffee purchase says, I'm living here, I'm active, I'm part of the system. A $30,000 balance with no movement says, I've packed up, I'm gone. I don't use this account anymore. It doesn't matter how long you've had the account. What matters is how recently and how consistently it shows everyday American life. Now combine that with foreign travel. A quiet bank account, plus a few months overseas, plus no rent or utility activity. That's the recipe for a red flag. USCIS sees a ghost, and ghosts don't get to keep green cards. So if you're a permanent resident, keep your bank account alive. Even a small charge here and there can prove you're still rooted in the US because yes, your bank account is snitching. And it's either telling the story you want or the story that gets your green card revoked. 6, no taxes filed equals no residency. Here's the harsh truth. If you don't file your taxes, the government assumes you've disappeared. Filing taxes is not optional, even if you earn nothing. Even if you were outside the US, even if you think it doesn't matter. It matters. Because the IRS and USCIS share information. And when there's no tax return under your name, it sends a message. This person may no longer live here. A skipped year becomes a missing chapter in your immigration story. You might still have your green card. You might still have a US mailing address. But to the government, you're a ghost with no economic footprint. That's a problem. Your tax return is more than just paperwork. It's proof of life. It's evidence of ties to the US. It's a breadcrumb trail that shows you still participate in American life. So here's what you do. File every single year. Even if you made $0, file. Even if you were living overseas, file. Even if you think you're exempt, file. Because missing even one return raises red flags. Skip 2. You're now under a shadow of abandonment. USCIS may question your residency, and they don't need much to pull your green card, so remember this. No taxes filed means no presence, and no presence means no residency. Keep filing, every year, even if it's just to say, hey, I'm still here. 5, expired green card equals expired protection. Your green card isn't just an ID. It's your legal shield, your proof of permanent residency. And when it expires, so does your protection. You get 10 years of validity. But here's what most people forget. You must renew within 6 months before it expires. Miss that window, you're now walking around with an invalid status card. And that opens the door to serious consequences. Let's be clear. An expired green card can stop you at the airport. It can block re-entry into the US. It can even trigger removal proceedings. Yes, removal. You could be detained and placed in immigration court, all because you forgot to renew a card. To border agents and USCIS officers, an expired green card isn't just a clerical error. It signals something deeper. This person may not care to keep their residency. That's the interpretation. And you don't get to argue intention. You're judged by your paperwork. So here's what to do. Track your expiration date. Start the renewal process 180 days before it expires. Do not travel with an expired card, ever. And if it's already expired, file Form I-90 immediately. Because an expired green card says, I might not be coming back, and USCIS might just make that decision for you. Number 4, the social media slip-up. Think your posts don't matter? Think again. USCIS officers aren't just flipping through forms anymore, they're scrolling through your feeds. Green card holders are under a new kind of surveillance, where a single TikTok or Instagram post can raise serious questions. Let's say you post a photo with the caption, "Back home for good red," even if it was just a family visit. That phrase alone might lead an officer to assume you've abandoned your US residence. Or imagine publicly discussing long-term plans in another country, enrolling kids in schools abroad, or showing off a new home purchase outside the US. USCIS could interpret all of that as evidence you're cutting ties with America. It's not just what you say, it's the story your timeline tells. If it looks like your life is rooted outside the US, they might decide you're no longer a permanent resident. So think twice before posting that new life in Canada, real, even if you're just on vacation. Number 3, the mistaken belief in voting rights. Let's clear this up once and for all. Green card holders are not allowed to vote in federal elections, and even registering to vote can be a major violation of your immigration status. USCIS considers it a false claim to US citizenship, and that can lead to deportation. It's an easy mistake to make, especially at the DMV, where clerks might casually ask, "Do you want to register to vote?" without checking your status. Say yes, even accidentally, and that checkbox could ruin your immigration journey. There's no benefit of the doubt here. Whether you meant to or not, signing a voter registration form could be treated as immigration fraud. And in 2025, with increased scrutiny, these things are being taken more seriously than ever. Avoid this pitfall at all costs. Say no, don't register, and if you already did by mistake, speak to an immigration attorney immediately. Don't let one wrong checkbox end your American dream. Number 2, the family abroad assumption. If your spouse and children live outside the US for extended periods, and you're visiting them often, USCIS might assume your real home is abroad. Yes, even if you're the one earning and paying taxes in the US, this rule is rarely spoken about, but highly enforced. Having your immediate family living permanently outside the US can be used against you as evidence of residency abandonment. Let's say your kids go to school in Lagos or Manila, and your partner works full-time in Dubai. USCIS may conclude you're simply visiting the US instead of truly residing here. To them, permanent residency means your whole life is centered in the US, so if your family life paints a different picture, it's a red flag. Keep clear evidence of ties here. Your children's US school enrollment, family bills, and your primary household based in America. Number 1, the reentry permit misconception. Many green card holders wrongly assume that getting a reentry permit means they're safe to stay outside the US as long as they want. That's not true. A reentry permit is just that, a permit, not a guarantee. It tells immigration officers, "I intend to return." But if you stay out too long, or if your actions abroad suggest you're relocating, USCIS can still cancel your green card. They'll look beyond the permit. Where do you live? Where do you work? Where do your kids go to school? What does your bank activity say? Even with a valid reentry permit, you still need to prove your life is rooted in the US. Otherwise, the permit is just another piece of paper, and your residency could be gone in an instant. Permanent residency isn't just a card, it's a lifestyle. Every trip abroad, every tax return, every document or lack of one tells a story. Make sure your story says, "I live here, I belong here. I'm not leaving." If you found this helpful, like the video, share and subscribe for more updates on immigration and moving abroad with your family.